Choosing a wrong white balance can totally make or break your image. At one side of the spectrum, it can totally ruin your image by giving you wrong colors, but whereas when you use creatively, it can increase the aesthetic value of an image that you take. In this short video, I'm going to show you four specific examples how white balance can impact the photographs that you take. Hi there, welcome back. I'm Shiv and you're watching Creative Zest. This is one of the smaller subset of a bigger video called Photography One-on-One, which I just recently released. In this video, I'll be specifically showing you how white balance impacts your images. I'm pretty sure by end of this video, you'll have an understanding of how white balance affects your photograph. Without taking too much of time, let me take you to the white balance video. So now first let's have a look at a few examples wherein what happens if you use a correct white balance setting and what happens if you use a wrong white balance setting. So in this situation, this is a typical early morning scene. This is shot from a drone, and the white balance that is used here is daylight. It's a daylight white balance is used. This early morning, it has that slight warm glow to that light and things like that. So you get an image like this. I don't want to talk whether this is correct or wrong, okay? But when I show you what happens when you use a wrong white balance setting, say you had used a tungsten white balance instead of a daylight white balance, this is exactly what will happen. The image will get a blue cast and it will look unnatural. So for a scene like this, it looks very unnatural because for your naked eye, you know that the monument is white and it's a warm morning light and it was not showing blue. So when you use a wrong white balance, like say tungsten in this case, the image gives a very blue cast. Now let's look at a night scene. This is a photograph of the famous Ambavilas Palace in Mysore. If you have seen this building, this is filled up with bulbs, and the speciality of this particular place is that during evenings on weekend or during special occasions like Dasara and all, they light up all the bulbs and it looks phenomenal. Now in this case, for this particular photograph, I have used tungsten white balance. Okay, that was the closest that I wanted to use to get the accurate colors. What would happen if I would have used daylight white balance? The image would have turned up like this. It would give that extra warmth to the image which is not required, and also adding more yellow or that warmness to the image which is yellow and bright will make the image look very artificial and the colors will look totally off and it's not at all pleasing to your eyes. And this is not something which you would actually see in the real case also. Place would definitely not look like this and it would look more natural if we had used tungsten white balance instead of the daylight white balance here. Now let's have a look at a couple of examples wherein white balance can be used in a creative purpose. Now look at this particular scene. This is actually a early morning winter scene from a place called Bharatpur in northern India, which is very famous for winter visitors, birds, and things like that. If you want to bring in some sort of like a mood into an image wherein putting in that the color cast will actually make some sort of like a visual and a mental impact, that's exactly when you can use white balance creatively. Though this is an early morning scene, I've intentionally put tungsten white balance so that it gives you that blue hour type of feeling into that image. Keep in mind this was done in editing, not on the camera. If at all, if I had shot this in JPEG and if I had kept tungsten white balance when I was actually shooting it, the image would have come same, but I wouldn't have got an option to change it back to say daylight or whatever was the situation then. But this is done in editing. Now let's have a look at the other way around. Same place, Bharatpur, and a very typical scene wherein you have cycle rickshaws which will take you around in the park. So the sun is already up and above the horizon. This was probably around like 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. The image was shot in daylight white balance, but pushing it a little further, say towards 6000 or 6500 Kelvin, which is typically the case which is associated with cloudy white balance. It will give you sort of that warm feel to the image, which can add to the visual impact of the image. As I told you, these are meant for creative purposes. These are done while doing image editing, wherein you're pushing the white balance towards more cooler region or towards more warmer region. This is something which you can do in image editing, need not be at the time of shooting. And if you have shot it in raw, you have more latitude to play with.